What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the For the Good podcast.
We're so glad you're here.
Our mission is to reach the next generation by encouraging you using God's word.
We cover topics like Christian dating. God does not want someone to come to him because of a person.
Finding your godly spouse.
That's how God works in relationships.
Following God's will for your life.
We think that we should be omniscient with God and staying close to God when the world tempts you. Or it can be worshiping the right God in the wrong way. Romans 8:28 says,
And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose.
This podcast is for God's good and to grow his kingdom.
Our prayer is that this ministry provides you with a healthy Christian community that you can be a part of.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the For the Good podcast.
Yep, we back. Second week on the second week on the channel.
Second week back
Second
for
week
season
back.
3.
Yes. Didn't know what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Mine's going a mile an hour.
Yeah.
That fast.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, it has been. It's only 2:00 and feels like I've done everything.
Yeah.
Anything and everything.
Yeah. We have a lot of updates, I feel like.
Yeah, a lot of updates, a lot of stuff happening. I mean, a lot of stuff we can't share.
Yes, there's also a lot of stuff behind the scenes.
But you want to start, honey? Just about some updates that we got going
on? Well, now I feel like I blanked because I had a whole laundry list of them and I was like, oh, okay, I got one. So, our marriage is not recorded right now.
Oh, that's where we're going with this. Yeah, the post office lost our marriage certificate.
Yeah.
So,
well, I don't think they ever picked it up.
Yeah.
I think it's in the mailbox at our apartment complex, and the mailman never picked it up out of there, and no one can get it out.
yeah.
I think is what happened. It's really hard to lose that envelope because the return address and the main address are both to where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
So like you really can't mess it up
Yeah.
and it's kind of a thick envelope because the marriage license is like cardstock.
Thicky boy.
So we had to go buy a new one and ship it back to Asher's dad because if you didn't know, his dad married us. So we had to ship it to him so he could sign it, and then he has to send it back to us, and then we're going to drive it to the county clerk this time so that it doesn't get lost.
Yeah, it was a whole mess. We had to go back up to the
County clerk here.
Yeah, we had to go to the county clerk here in our city. And I talked to the manager. I was like, hey man, I don't know why we're having to pay for this again when we already did, and like this isn't our fault. And he was like, yeah, well, do you want to get married or not? And I was like, well, I mean, unfortunately, you kind of have to be married in our government to do basically anything.
Yeah.
If it was my decision, I mean, I don't know. I don't like how the government's in our business.
Yeah. Yeah. But I want to get my name changed.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want our kids to have both of our last names. So
yeah.
In order to do that, we had to get a marriage license and make it legal.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that.
Yeah, it didn't make me feel less married. Michelle was a little bit more emotional on that side because she was like, technically we're not even married. And I was like, well, technically the government didn't create marriage, so technically we are.
Yeah, we got married in the eyes of God and with everyone there. And you're not married in that moment anyways.
Yeah.
So he signs it, like he signed it at our wedding, but it's not actually recorded yet. So I've heard people go months or years without actually like it being legal.
So that's one thing. So we are the Arwine Bartletts still.
Yeah.
Soon to be just one last name. So next thing, Michelle is now a coach.
I feel like I should have pressed the button.
That's okay. Yeah, so she is now accepting women clients. So if y'all...
And it is filling up really fast.
Yeah, we didn't even do... Actually, by the time this video comes out, y'all would probably see some stuff on our Instagram, maybe some photos or a reel or something. But by the time we're recording this, Michelle's just put something on her story.
Yeah.
And
twice.
Yeah, twice. And you have, I think, 5 clients, right? 4 or 5, something like that.
Yeah, it's either 5 or 6. It's at least 5.
Oh, okay, 5 or 6. Yeah. And I was telling Michelle, I was like, well, let's just start with 5 and see if you even like it. At the start, we were like, she's only going to take on like 5 clients, and she's already there. Like, I thought it would take her like a month. Took her about 6 days. So.
And shout out to all my clients. They're amazing.
Yeah. So I don't really know the cap, but we also have taken into consideration Michelle does still work a full-time job, and obviously she doesn't want to give y'all like half of the service. So I don't really know where we're going to cap her out at when it comes to client-wise. So if y'all are interested, link for the application is in the description. Yes. So that is another update, and I think that's it. Anything else?
I feel like there was something else. Something dramatic. Something else dramatic happened. No? No?
I don't think
Just
so.
a lot of stuff that we can't talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, merch will be coming back soon. Or not back.
The
It'll be launching. Yeah.
The designs are in the works right now.
Yeah.
We don't have like a set time on when we're getting them back. The girl that's doing them for us isn't working on a deadline, so because we told her we weren't in any rush. We have a lot going on right now anyways, so whenever we get those back, then we'll go look at some clothing that we want to put it on, and then we'll order everything. That part's really fast, so it'll be within the next couple months probably.
Yeah. I would say, like, just to give y'all like an overestimated date, I would say like July, somewhere around there. We'll have some For the Good merch and also some High Honey merch, because y'all like that tagline a lot. So we're going to put that on a t-shirt. And then I may drop stuff for my company as well. Not entirely sure yet. But there we go. Now that we're done with all of that, all the laundry list. You wanna talk about the topic, honey?
You want me to start?
Yep. You start.
So by the title, you guys probably know already that we're going to talk about something that's probably very controversial. And especially in worldly relationships, because I feel like a lot of times people get into them thinking, oh, this is fine. I can make this work. I can change this person and I can make them become the person that I want to be with. And having that mindset is just really, really unhealthy.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about relationships and how it's not your job to change your partner. And we're also going to talk about how if you're not changing for God, then you won't change for your partner.
Yeah. So I wanna start. I think I said this in the last episode too, but before Michelle and I got married, I looked at my brother and I looked at James, and I think Ian was there too. But I was like, it's time for me to go die, and they were completely thrown off
At the wedding.
Yeah, at the wedding, they were completely.
There's no context there.
Yeah, I said before Michelle and I got married.
Oh, yeah, but no.
Well, at the ceremony, before the ceremony, I was like, well, it's time to die, and they were like, hold on, where's the murderer? You know, like they were like, what's going on? And I was like, because they looked at me confused, so I know I had to explain. And I was like, well, when I'm up there, I'm not alive. Like,
Yeah.
I'm actually dying.
Yeah.
And when Michelle's up there, she's actually dying.
Yeah.
And in the process of getting married, you can really see the significance of the altar about Michelle dying and me dying and us becoming one. It's not like some I thought there was going to be like some huge awakening in my soul or something.
Yeah.
Like, and then when it didn't happen, I'm like, wait, did I actually get married? You know, but it's not like that at all.
Yeah.
However, what it did open my eyes to was you don't live at the altar, you actually die at the altar. So the whole saying of me being like, the whole saying of me telling my brother and James, my other best man, I'm going to the altar to die. What I was really meaning was I am dying to myself yet again to become one with my bride.
Yeah.
And now with that context, I want to say you can't use the excuse anymore. If you're a follower, you can't use the excuse, well, that's just the way I am, so I can't change.
Yeah.
And I put this on my Instagram channels the other day, was if you are a follower of Jesus, you can't use that excuse. Well, you can. I just don't know if you're actually following the right Jesus. Now, if you're not a follower of Jesus, I think this video will really help you and open your eyes. But people that aren't following Jesus like to use that excuse. I'll give you all an example. So something that Michelle and I don't really do. However, I've heard of other couples do this. They're using the bathroom or they're on the other side of the house and they yell at each other, right? And they're like, hey, did you take out the trash, or are you cooking dinner, or whatever it may be, right? And one person, maybe that's how they grew up, right? And they're like, this is just how we communicated, and like, I didn't know a problem with that. However, the other person on the other side of the room, they get frustrated because they're like, why is this woman yelling at me, right? That's not how they operate in their house. So either the man or the woman, I'm talking about worldly relationships, people that don't follow Jesus, they may say, well, that's just the way I am, so you better put up with it because I'm not changing. However, on the flip side of things, if you are a follower of Jesus and that same scenario happened, God's going to let you know very, very quick, hey, that's not how she operates. You got to change. And it's not that you're really changing for her, like in a simp way, like just talking on worldly terms, but you're really changing in a servant way. And that's what's really important, is because a lot of change that you go through, and just Michelle and I's marriage, a lot of it doesn't come down to us or me being a simp for Michelle. It really comes down to me being a better servant. And
just respecting each other.
And just respecting each other. Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's why Michelle and I have said so much, if you're not going to change for God, you're really not going to change for your partner. And if you've been following Jesus for 8 or 9 years and you haven't changed, well, I would argue you're probably not following the God of the Bible. And I don't know if you've read the New Testament at all. Well, I talked for a while, honey. What'd you want to say?
No,
I could have kept going, but
that's really good. I want to stress how like unhealthy it is to even just approach a relationship with the mindset of like, oh, this is fine. Like I can change this. Because you're putting expectations on them that they're going to change. And if they don't, that relationship is going to go downhill like really, really fast. Because they don't know in your mind that you're thinking, oh, I can change this person. Like it's fine. And that's how I was in all my relationships. It was especially my college relationship. That one was like peak unhealthy. Like there were things that he would do and I would be like, oh, I can just change this. Like if he would just do this instead, or like not do this, or, like I'm not in a relationship to change this man.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's with someone else doing the same thing because his excuse was, well, this is just who I am.
Yeah.
Like take it or leave it, and going into a relationship with that mindset, you're literally asking for destruction and you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Because you can't fix them.
Yeah.
You can't fix them. You can't change them. It's not your job. Like only God can do that.
Yeah.
And if they're a follower of Jesus and there's something in their life that needs to change, they need to work it out with God before you guys get together.
Yeah.
Like does God use people in other people's lives? Absolutely. But you get into dangerous territory when you start to use the excuse, I just want God to use me in this person's life in our relationship. And it's like, do you think that you're going to be bringing them forward, or do you think they're going to bring you back?
Yeah.
We can go back to the same thing that we talked about in the last season. I brought up a story in the Bible where it talks about like what makes something defiled, right? You can't make me healthy. You can make me sick.
Yeah.
You can't make me healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone is not changing a certain part of them and you want to help them fix it, and they're a believer, let's say it's a sin struggle or something, and you're like, oh, God put me in their life to like help them with this.
Yeah.
Chances are they're going to get you sick.
Yeah.
You're not going to make them healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we can be a support system. We can be alongside them, but we don't want to diminish our relationship with the Lord just to help another person
Right.
who's not even putting the Lord first in the first place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Here's the problem with all of that is we're not the correct source they're looking for.
Exactly.
Like they're looking for water and we're like Coca-Cola. Mm-hmm. They need to be looking for water.
Yeah.
I'm putting this in perspective to like, we're talking about God and we're
Yes.
talking like,
Yeah.
we're not the source that's going to change
Yeah.
them. And dude, even on that point, again, this is getting in like controversial territory and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a pride issue.
It is.
Do you really think you can change someone?
Yeah.
If you really think about it, you got a big ego to think like that. I mean,
You're not God.
yeah. And I mean, like thinking about Michelle and I's life, stuff she struggled with, stuff I've struggled with. Has she supported me through a bunch of stuff? Yeah. But there's not one thing Michelle has done for me that has like flipped the switch just like that. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I'm cleansed.
Mm-hmm.
No. Like when you're when you're gonna run to other sources besides God, then your thirst isn't gonna be quenched. Mm-hmm. Like you're still gonna be very thirsty. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to talk a little bit about like before relationships happen. Mm-hmm. Because when it comes to following Jesus and putting him first in your life, you will see people change on a month-to-month scale.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes even on a week-to-week scale.
Oh, yeah.
It depends, honestly.
Everyone's sanctification process is different.
It's very different, but for someone not to change in a year, then I mean, I don't know. You know, I would be careful. But this is what I will say is if you're thinking about dating a person and you're trying to figure out like if they're following Jesus or not, maybe it's weird to have that conversation or whatever. You need to see if they've actually changed. Because if they don't change at all, more than likely if y'all do get in a relationship, they're going to lean on you for them to help change them. Or they're going to lean on you for that change, like for them to help you change, you know? And I mean, I used to do that. I used to lean on women that I used to date in the past to help me with stuff. A lot of times it was like insecurities, like it was like validation issues, but nothing like, I don't know, pride or ego stuff, but usually validation issues and just like reassurance issues. I would want a girl to just fill that for me. Also, I wanted to say one more thing. We're not talking about like we're not talking about like physical like standards. We're talking about behavioral issues. So like, for example, I can't change Michelle's brown eyes. Like I'm glad that's how she is.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm talking about like behavioral issues. You know what I think would be great, honey? Is what if you do want your partner to change in an area? How do we address that?
Yeah, that's a good topic.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think the first thing, we haven't really had anything, at least from my end, I haven't really had anything where I'm like, you know, this needs to change. But I think there's been moments where I'm like, maybe this could be different, or not in like a bad way, but like just going through different seasons together, like even being married for a month already, it's kind of like we're still learning a lot, you know, we're still adjusting. So I think approaching it with prayer and just praying to God about that specific topic. Because even in my life with like other people, not necessarily our relationship, but like maybe it's friendships or family members, and there's been something where I'm like, I just wish this was different, or like I wish this would happen. in our relationship. And I would just pray about it, and then like something would happen where it's like, okay, something's starting to like, it's actually starting to become something that they're changing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And I also don't think there's anything wrong with bringing it to your partner as well.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought of this example, but like I was on my computer because I was changing programs. Michelle got back from Costco, and she was like bringing groceries in, and I forgot that you went to Costco, and that's why like I didn't ask you if you needed help until after. But because I was changing programs and stuff, and so you brought in the last box, and I was like, hey, do you need help? And you're like, no, I got it. And like when you said that, it was like oh crap, like I probably should have helped her. And it's like, that's what I'm talking about, where it's not necessarily that Michelle wants me to change in that area. It's that God wants me to help my bride and to be a better servant. And it's not that I did anything wrong. I mean,
Right.
I was literally working,
Yeah.
right? But again, that's one of those things where it's like, well, I should probably choose my wife helping her bring in the groceries compared to me sitting on my computer writing a client program that I can take the next 24 hours to write, you know? So look, that's what we mean by, like you're, in a way, you're really changing for God and not really your partner.
Yeah, it's literally a conviction.
Yeah.
Like there's been, what was this, yesterday, the day before that, I was like, I apologize for just being really emotional and like sensitive lately, and I just haven't felt good. So I was just like complaining a lot, and I apologized to you because I felt a conviction that I was like, I was being too negative, and that like you had to listen to it all the time. And you know, as a partner, like you want to be there, right?
Yeah.
It's not that you didn't want to be there for me and like comfort me. Like I wanted you to be aware of how I was feeling. But at the same time, I felt guilty about like focusing on the negative stuff.
Yeah.
And not focus on the many blessings that God's given us and just what's going on in our life and how it's a huge blessing. And so it was literally a conviction.
Yeah.
And it was like, I feel like I need to tell you this. And like, that's what we're talking about. Like, if you're not obeying convictions from the Holy Spirit about your own personal life, like with your personal relationship with Jesus, like if you listen to a rap song and you're like, this makes me feel really bad, like a worldly rap song, and you're like, this is gross, I need to turn this off, and you don't listen to that, and you keep listening to it, and you're consuming really nasty words, then if you're not going to obey that one conviction towards God, then the convictions that he gives you towards your relationship, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship, your marriage, like whatever it may be, you're not going to do it for them either.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
Like,
because you're not even going to think it's a conviction because
Yeah.
you disobeyed the first one, and then
exactly.
you're eventually just going to be dull to the Spirit.
Exactly. And that's exactly what John Bevere talks about in the Awe of God. He says you literally become numb almost. Like the more and more you ignore convictions, the more and more numb you become in the future. So there might be an instance where you snap at your partner and you don't even catch it because you've been ignoring convictions left and right to the where the Holy Spirit isn't even loud anymore.
Yeah.
So you snap at them and you're like, oh, well, they'll forgive me.
Yeah,
it
they'll
is what
forgive
it
me.
is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good, honey. Dang, I just lost something, but shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. It'll probably come back. Anywho, yeah, and I also want to talk about one more thing with just with changing, because I think a lot of Christians kind of get the wrong mindset about like what following Jesus actually is and what it actually stands for. Following Jesus is mimicking Jesus, and Jesus was the best servant on earth. So you really have to think about it. Jesus is refining us in a way to be a better servant, and this is towards everyone. Now, what does that look like? That looks a lot of you dying every single day. And this one thing that goes on social media and in the Christian space that I just don't like at all, is when I don't really know how to put it, because like I like the saying I'm now alive with Christ. I love that. But at the same time, I don't, because you have to die a lot in order to get there, you know? And sometimes it feels like it gives us like an ego or a pride. It's like, yes, I'm saved. And it's like, well, yeah, you're saved, but like you're still gonna die every day until we get to heaven. And that's something that hit me really, really hard when I first got saved. Was you get saved, and then of course everyone's different, but then I got saved and I'm like, okay, now what? And then it's like, dang, this is this is hard. I heard Preston say this the other day, honey. He said, the Christian life is meant to be impossible.
Yeah, that's why the road is really narrow.
Yeah. He said the Christian life is meant to be impossible. So if you're still trying to live the Christian life without the Spirit, you're going to lose 100 times out of 100 times.
Oh, you're going to lose so bad. You're going to deconstruct and you're going to fall into legalism.
The Indians we have next door, if they tried to follow the Bible, they couldn't do it.
No. And
it's not because they couldn't follow the rules. It's that they didn't have the concept of having the Holy Spirit in them.
Right.
And that's something that you will lean on so much in marriage. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've been doing something, Michelle's been on her laptop or whatever, and the Lord's like, go make her a sandwich. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And then I make you a sandwich, and you're always like, this is exactly what I needed.
Yeah, it usually happens where you come out and you're like, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, nothing, I'm good. And you're like, no, I want to serve you.
Yeah.
Give me something to do for you.
Yeah, there's always something. And once it's done, that's something that I've expressed. I'm glad we got on this topic, honey. This is what I mean by like, how do we express to our partner about some things they need to change? Something Michelle is working on is it's very difficult for her to express her needs when it comes to me serving her, because she's never been in a relationship where people serve her. And on top of that, she's always lived alone, so she's done everything herself. And so what I've noticed was I'm like, hey, can I do this for you? Can I not do this for you? What can I do this for you better at? I don't know if that even makes sense, but I'm going with it. And she'll say, nothing, I'm good. And I say, let's see how this plays out. And so then I'll be like, okay, she said she's good. Have it played out. I got a million things to do. I have this. And I'm like, well, let me do one. No, it's okay. I got it. And then by the end of all of it, she'll say, I'm beat. Like, I don't feel good, blah, blah, blah. And so that's one of those things where I tell her, I'm like, well, why don't next time you express to me, what things I can help you with? What stuff do you hate the most? And I'll do that. And you've gotten a lot better at it, honey, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
And I mean, I do it too.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and say I don't do it. There are some things where, for example, sometimes you'll be like, no, let me do the dishes. And I'm like, no, I'll do it. And
you're just trying to be nice.
Yeah. And then I'm over here like, I really don't want to do this. And
I'm like, yeah, no, I got it.
Yeah. So
Asher hates laundry.
Yeah. So, okay, here's another thing is, we talked about this on episode 1 of this season, but we're going to say it again, is don't take away your partner's strengths.
Yeah.
Like, so I'll give you all the same example. I'm talking about laundry here. Can I do laundry? Absolutely. If Michelle is like, I really don't feel like doing laundry, I will try my very best to do it like she does.
Yeah.
It will not be nearly as good, and it will probably be very messy, but I will try. All right? So it's one of those things where it's like, Michelle's not going to want me to change in that area, or even like pray to God and say, hey, can you make him do this laundry? because this is one of Michelle's strengths here. She likes folding it. She likes organizing it, stuff like that. So in no way are we saying try and force your partner to like get better in your areas of strength, because there's also a lot of areas where Michelle is not very good at, and I wouldn't say not very good at, I would say she just doesn't like to do, and anyone can do it, and it's like that's perfect for me. Vacuuming. I
actually enjoy vacuuming, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's just time consuming. So
yeah. And so like, could I do laundry? Yeah, but Michelle, I don't feel bad when Michelle's like, I need to do laundry. You know, it's different when Michelle's like, I need to do dishes, because it's like, well, you can't really be better at dishes and stuff. I mean, I guess you could, but her and I are on the same wavelength as that, on like putting them away, where to put them, stuff like that. But something like laundry, when she's like, oh, I need to do laundry, she's not saying in the back of her mind, hey, can you do this for me? She's just talking out loud. Dishes, on the other hand, I get a conviction where you say, I need to do dishes, and the Lord's like, get your booty in there. But the Lord's never said, do that laundry. He's never told me that. And I think Michelle hides it from me in her prayer journal. Please never let him do the laundry ever.
No, but that's really good.
Yeah.
I haven't said that. I think he just knows.
Yeah. It's weird because it's only convictions about a couple of things. I mean, it's not everything, and I think that's okay. I don't think you have to learn how to do literally everything. That's why it's a team thing, you know, and that's what's fun. It's fun exploring that with your partner. Very fun.
Yeah, it is. I think another thing that is important is to talk about the things that you feel like God is helping you with.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I like that a lot.
So like communicating, like sitting down and being like, hey, honey, I feel like this is an area where the Lord is like really helping me in. Because when your partner is aware of what the Lord is helping you through, then they can also be your accountability partner, not stepping in, like not like stepping on God's toes, right? Like it's God's ultimate job to change that part of us, whatever it is. But being open and being like, hey, this is an area that I feel like the Lord's like, okay, we got to change this or else this isn't going to be good in the future, right? This is something that we did before we got married. The biggest thing was like getting upset really easily. And just fixing it now before we have kids, because we talked about how like we don't want our kids to be around and something drop and be like, oh, this is so frustrating. Or, you know, like I was in the kitchen, I dropped a whole container of rice. Remember that? And I was like, oh, dang it. Like this sucks. And then it was
we're not talking about getting mad at each other, people. We're talking about like little things, like Michelle dropped a plate of rice. And she's just being really negative. And it's like, well, it's not the end of the world. How much is rice? 50 cents?
Yeah. It's not that. Like this morning I did it. I was making oatmeal. Yeah. And I'm making egg white oatmeal. Okay. And you have to put it in the microwave for like a certain amount of time. And then you get it out in increments and keep stirring it, or else the egg whites turn to eggs, like scrambled eggs in the bowl. So you have to keep stirring it. And I got distracted doing something else, and I left it in the microwave for like 2 minutes, and I literally had a bowl of scrambled eggs with like oatmeal chunks in it. And I was like, this is not what it was supposed to be. So I had to dump it out and restart. I wasn't worried about the ingredients. Like we can buy more. We have a huge bag from Costco of the oats. Like I wasn't worried about it, but it was just frustrating because I was like, I really just want to eat this so that I can like get back to work, you know? And it was frustrating. So like getting upset and frustrated in areas is something that I'm working on. Right. So like the fact that you know that, then you can hold me accountable to like, oh, it's okay. Like I forget what I said. I said something really negative this morning, and then you were like, no, honey, it's fine. Like I forget what you said. What did you say? I feel like you said something positive to like counteract what I said. No, you've done that before though.
Well, I know I probably did. I just don't know what you were talking about, but yeah, I do that a lot, but again, that's because I know okay. It's really the reason why I love that Michelle told me that so much is because this is something that my mom struggled with a lot raising us, is something so small, and she would just blow it out of the water. And it would, here's the thing, when the mother or father are in a mood, the whole house is like that too. And so this is something Michelle and I are just working on so much, is just, I get you're going to have bad days, but it's just so much better just to be overall positive and, you know, always just in God's presence, because that's just going to completely change the way that your household is really ran.
Yeah.
And dude, it would be little things. You know, my mom, it would be like we're at a turkey meat or something, and it's like 5 p.m. on a Tuesday, and she's like, she doesn't want to go to the store. She gets upset, and then I'm over here, and now I'm upset because my mom's upset because she yelled at me because the turkey meat's not there. And I'm like, what did I do? I'm just doing my homework.
Yeah.
And I go play basketball. I throw a punch at someone because I got mad because my mom yelled at me, you know, and I took it out on the kid, you know. So that never happened. I was just making up a story.
I was like, whoa.
Very specific. I was just making that up. But yeah, something like that. And, you know, you think about it in the future, and it's like Michelle could drop that rice in the future, and we're holding our 3-year-old or something, and you're like, dropped it, got to make another one. Or, you know, you kick the bowl and you're like, gosh dang it, this sucks. And then the 3-year-old's like, oh, well, mommy's acting like that, I guess I got to as well. So he drops his can of peaches and throws a spoon across the kitchen, and the house explodes.
Here we go.
Yeah.
No, and then you become a hypocrite. It's actually really sad, because like, I've seen a lot of parents have to go through that with their child, where their child will act out and do something, and then they're like, no, don't do that. Like, that's really bad. And then the kid's like, well, you did it.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Does that make it okay? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But they're literally sponges. They pick up everything.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what our kid turns out to be. That's going to be very exciting.
I am too. And I just keep praying that when the time comes, the Lord just keeps refining us for that moment, you know?
Yeah. Michelle and I's prayer is not to be the perfect parent. Michelle and I's prayer is that we're just going to be the right parents for our kid. Which I know, you know, we are. But, you know, a working parent is a healthy parent. So as long as we continue to work on our character, it's going to help our kid a lot.
Yeah. I just really want to encourage anyone that is in a relationship where they're like, I want to be with this person, but like this needs to change. Or maybe it's something really big. Like maybe it's something that they're struggling with, and you're like, I literally can't be with this person until this changes, you know? Like, just really seek God during that and be obedient to what he's telling you to do. Like, because it might be one of those times where you're like, I just need to back off a little bit. I've heard stories of that where couples will kind of like back off because either one or both of them is just going through this really deep refining process, and they can't do it when they're together because it's so deep. And they've gotten back together. JP and his wife did that. I hear that so much too, where a guy will come to me and they're like, hey, my girlfriend broke up to me because she's trying to get refined in this area, and I told her I can help her, and now she left me and we're not back together. I know she's the love of my life and we're going to get married, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, why are you trying to take over God's job? Like, do you even believe in God? Like, do you believe in what he's capable of? Because if you do, then you're not going to be the one to try and refine them. I know it sucks. You know, the girl of your dreams left you. Like, that's terrible. And I mean, again, that's I mean, do you put God first in your life? Yes or no? And JP said something the other week, and it was so good. And he said, your singleness season is going to be where you know that Jesus is enough. And your marriage season is going to be when you realize that how significant the Trinity actually is. I forgot the way he worded it, but because the thing is when you're single, all you should be focused on is Jesus. You shouldn't be focused on, oh, she's really hot, maybe I want to take her on a date, blah, blah. Like, dude, if you just focus on Jesus, that woman's just going to get sent to you, all right?
And when you get married, the reason why I say you'll understand the Trinity more is because there's a woman, a man, and a God in one relationship. That's the covenant. It's one covenant. And we all work together to help out different things. And when you think about the Trinity, there's Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and God. And they all work together to accomplish one mission and one goal. It's the same thing in a marriage. And it's really, really cool to see that unpack because, again, with the laundry stuff, Michelle's good at that. I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, and I work on other stuff that I'm better at than she is. And then we lean on God for comfort and support through everything and for him to refine us. So it's really unique in that essence. But what were you going to say, honey?
I was going to bring up like just control because like we talked about this in a whole episode last season, but like giving up control and like actually letting God do his job. Like in a sense, if you feel like you need to change someone, you're taking the control away from God. Like you're not letting go.
Yeah.
And that's really prideful. Like
Yeah.
to think that you can do something and that God isn't going to do it. Like,
Yeah.
we are nothing compared to him.
Yeah.
Like, just leave it up to him.
Yeah.
And if you feel a sense of like, I feel like I need to either leave this relationship because there's no change going to happen because this person's not following the Lord at all, there's your answer.
Yeah.
Or if it's this person's just going through this season and maybe it's a season of isolation.
Yeah.
Maybe they're a new believer and God's getting rid of relationships that aren't helping them
Yeah.
out and the person's a little more lonely than usual. Like you can be there for them without suffocating them by trying to change them.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a big difference. But just being obedient to convictions in your personal relationship with the Lord, and also when you feel convictions about something in your relationship with your partner, like they go. You can't obey one without obeying the other.
Yeah. Yeah, and because then people will be like, "No, but I know God's telling me to do this." Your mind's very powerful.
Yeah,
if you're telling yourself that you're supposed to be doing this, you're probably going to do it. So if you're saying, I know God is XYZ, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't know anything until it's proven right. And I bring up this verse so much, and that's what Luke 7 talks about so much. Wisdom is shown to be proven right by its deeds. Other translations say by time. And so you saying, I know God is making me do XYZ, you may not know until you're 85 years old. You know? And, you know, I'll say stuff where, and I take it back where I'm like, I know God told me to do this. I take it back and I'm like, well, actually, I think. I think he told me to do this, actually. I'm not sure.
You're not sure about anything.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Asher tells you that all the time. I'll say, honey, what time was this at? Like, what time we were supposed to go to lunch? And he'll be like, 2:00. And I'll be like, are you sure? And he goes, no.
Yeah.
The answer is always no. Because you're like, I'm not sure about anything.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Well, it's because I know it's around the time, but it may be 1:59,
Right.
2:01.
You're right.
And yeah. And
It's just really funny.
Yeah. But anywho, so, you know, when this is something I hear a lot from the girl side. I don't really hear it from the man side that much, is the girl side will be, I know God's put me in his life to change him. And I'm over here like, scripture doesn't back that up. I don't know if God told you to do that. Now, I believe that God may have used you to plant a seed in him. But also my big thing is, if you're saying, I know God put me in his life or her life to change her or do X, Y, Z, I think that comes a lot from you just being selfish and you just trying to get what you want instead of his will being done. Because a lot of this comes out to you just wanting to be in a relationship or wanting to be married. And so what you'll do is you'll say, I know God. So you kind of use the Bible as a weapon in your favor.
Yep.
You know, like that's the ammunition. And then because you can always back it up with, how are you going to tell me what God said and what God didn't? Well, it's like, well, we can't, but at the same time, you can tell yourself stuff.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've told myself I need to make this video when God never told me to make this video, and then I make it and I don't get any peace about it, it's probably happened 15 to 20 times.
Yeah.
There have been times Michelle's in the gym. Remember a couple months back, honey, where you tried to ask me about a fitness thing, and I was like, I'm not filming this. Remember, this was when we were engaged.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was like 3 or 4 months ago, because I was telling Michelle, I was like, this coaching thing is difficult right now. I was going through a difficult season, and you want to talk about it on a video. And I was like, I don't feel peace about this at all. And it's like, I could have fought that and battled through it and been like, no, I know God wants me to make this video. And it's like, well, I don't have peace about it though. So does he? I don't know if there's anything that I've done that God doesn't give me peace about when he tells me to do something.
We hope that this episode helps you and encourages you to start listening to convictions and also to not enter a relationship with the mindset of, oh, I can change this person. It's not always going to be this way. Jesus is the only one that can change someone. And we've seen it happen radically.
Yeah.
It is more than possible.
Yeah.
And you have to give up that control and stop being prideful, thinking that you're going to be the savior.
Yeah.
Did you die on a cross?
No.
I didn't.
I'm glad I didn't.
He did it for us.
Yeah.
And I never in a million years want to take away that or try to say that I'm more powerful than him.
Yeah. Yeah. And if that person doesn't change, well, thank goodness you're not with him, because that would be a terrible relationship. Or her. Michelle's not the same woman she was when I met her. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Not that there was anything wrong with her, but she's gotten substantially better. And she's had bad days and had really good days. And it's the same thing with me. I'm not the same person that I was when she met me. And thank goodness for that, because there was a lot of stuff that needed to change about me for us to get prepared for marriage. So if that person's not changing, don't put it on your shoulders, because that's just going to be a huge burden to you. You're going to get sad, depressed. You're going to lose your relationship with God. And I mean, yeah, you're just going to have a huge burden on your shoulders when it shouldn't even be your burden to begin with. Yeah. Great episode, honey. Good job.
Thanks. You too.
Yeah. And we will catch y'all next week on the tripod.